Hello everybody and welcome to Organian's Puzzle Box. Today I want to show you how to make a hunting knife using 3ds Max and applying modifiers such as the Open Subdiv and the crease set modifiers, which basically means you've got a lot of control over your mesh. It's not like using a turbo smooth and basically adding all these crazy loops everywhere. This is a workflow that gives you a lot more control over what you're doing, and also makes sure that at the end of the day you have a perfectly working low poly mesh to use in conjunction with your high poly mesh. And so the first part of the tutorial is how to do the blocking into 3ds Max and then making the high poly out of it. The second part is adding all these details into Zbrush, making some nice designs on it. Third part is basically doing the sheath for the knife and putting into Zbrush and detailing it a little bit as well. Both of these will be UV unwrapped in a further video when we also do painting in Substance Painter to add all these neat details to it. So stay tuned. Follow me if you want to see the whole tutorial series. Just press the subscribe button, press the bell down to get notifications whenever I post a new video. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Please let me know if you have any suggestions or any requirements. This tutorial is done by request, so if you guys want to request a tutorial from me, and if I find the subject to be interesting enough, I might actually give it a go. So yeah, stay tuned and enjoy watching this tutorial. Okay, so first things first, we got to choose our reference in order to get our hunting knife going on. So I've just went online and basically got this out. What we're going to do is we will separate the object into two. So we've got the blade, which we'll do as one object, and then we have the handle, which we'll do as the other object. We'll start with the handle, since it's going to be our main sort of piece, the blades being a bit simpler than the handle to make. So we've got a reference. I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you guys can basically get this reference as well. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to start with a box, basically. So we will just place our box over here, make it like that. Let's press G on the keyboard to take the grid off. And what I want to do is I want to center the box by pressing W on the keyboard and then right clicking on these arrows over here, and that will center our object into the middle of the scene. Okay, now we'll go into our modifier tab, and then we want to basically add some more lengths and width and height segments. One thing is, looking at the reference, we know the handle won't be so thick, so we'll do it a bit something like that, a bit thinner. And we want to add a few length segments. Let's just press F4 on the keyboard so we can see it. So we've got one on the length, and then we'll do some width segments. I think around, I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around 4 segments. We'll add more if we need to, but yeah, I think 4 segments. And then we want on the height one, we probably want, let's say 2. Yeah, we'll work with 2 and see if we need any extra later on. Right, so now that we've done that, we basically want to start putting the shape into looking more and more like the handle that we have in the reference. Yep. So what we want to capture here is, you see right there at the end, we've got this sort of this bend. And then over here, we've got another bend like that. And obviously here it starts to protrude a little bit, and then we have another bend. This metallic piece right here at the end will not we'll not be worrying about that as of yet. We want to focus on the main part of the handle first. So right, what I like to do is I will add an FFD 4x4x4 on top of it. I'll press 1 on the keyboard, and now I can basically adjust these. So by selecting the ones at the top, for example, I can start moving. You can see what that's doing to the shape. So we know overall the reference, the handle and the reference has a curve. So then that means that we'll want to, well, basically curve it a little bit. So we'll start with the back, and then we'll want to do a little bit of curve at the front here, but not too much, something like that. Right. Now the next thing that we want to do, we want to select these points. I'm thinking this is the, we'll raise this a little bit and then we'll pull it out, something like that. So just like in the reference, it basically has this pulled shape over here. And then we also know over here we have another shape, but you see if you do that, then it won't really help you out. So on top of the FFD 4x4, we'll add an edit poly. Now with the edit poly selected, we can then get these points over here and drag them down if we want to. Actually, I'm going to move them a little bit more to the side, like that. And then I'm also going to move these over here in the middle. And now I will do a pull. And basically what happens is, if we move these across, you can see how that's creating a bit more tension in the shape. But we also, you just want the block out of this model to be as close to the reference as possible. So right here, let's go to edge mode by pressing 2 on the keyboard. Right here, we want to add another connection, and then want to move this connection over here, and then pretty much, move this. So we'll press 1 on the keyboard, move this to be almost in line with the other side over here, right? And this, we want to bring it a bit further down. Okay, so we've got that shape, not anything spectacular. We'll just add a Open Subdiv on top, and I just want to see how that looks like. So we'll just increase our iterations to maybe 3. It's not much, as you can see, there's not a lot to talk about. So we'll go back to our edit poly, and on top of that one, we'll add a crease set. And then we'll deactivate show end results. Basically, we don't want to see our mesh the way it is. Right, we'll go to edge mode by pressing 2 on the keyboard, and we want to start creasing some of these parts. Now I've done this on purpose, where basically I'm using only this reference and not something else, because I want us to use our imagination as well in order to get some of these things done correctly. So yeah, we'll use the crease over here. We basically want all the edges to be creased. Now, for all of you who don't know how the crease modifier works, it's basically, it tells 3ds Max where to basically keep the edge straight. So now that we've added all of these edges to our crease, we're going to create a set with these edges selected. And then we'll increase the tension of the set to the maximum. And now when we go to Open Subdiv, you can see what that's done. It's basically now maintaining this shape. Yeah. Now over here, in our reference, we've got a very flat surface right there. So basically what we want to do is we want to make this as well, make it flat as well. So we'll go back into crease, and then we will hold Control and press on these edges as well. Which then means if I right click on edge set and select update set from selection, when I now go back to Open Subdiv, you can see that that's now done in that way as well. Now if you go on the Open Subdiv, if you lower the number of subdivisions, you'll see how the shape starts to lose a bit more of that geometry. So if we deactivate isolate display and we have a look, this is how many polygons we have. The more iterations we put in, the more polygons we have, so the more quality we'll get. But I think that's about the right amount. Okay, now we need a sharper edge over here and sharper edges over here as well. So we'll go back to our crease set, and I want us to make another set basically. So we'll deselect these edges, and then we will be selecting these edges. Now don't worry, in crease set, although you see the gizmo for movement, you don't have to worry, nothing is going to move if you press on the gizmo, so don't worry about that. Right, so I've selected those edges, sorry, without these, we don't need those selected. And then I'm also going to select this edge over here, and now we'll create a new set, and we will increase the tension. Now if we press the show end result, this is basically what we get. And if we go to Open Subdiv as well, you know, directly, this is what we have. Now I believe compared to the reference, we do have a bit too much tension on these basically. So what we want to do is we want to go into crease set, have this end result shown, and then we can decrease some of that tension. As you can see, as we increase it, you can see what it's doing. So I'm just going to leave it around there. And then also this other crease, we don't need that much tension either. Now some of the things to learn basically in our approach, because we've taken the tension off of both the creases, then you know we get a better shape over here, but we start to lose our accuracy over here. So that's when we kind of need to separate the creases a little bit. So we'll select all elements in this set. If we deactivate that, you can see we've now selected the first creases items. We'll just deselect those edges like that, and then we will update set from selection. And now I want us to select all of these like that, and create a new set. Now this is very important for you to understand, that basically the more creases and tension you add, the more you eliminate curves, and if you don't apply tension, then you'll have more curves. So basically this is our result. Now some of the things that we can also do here, we can go back to our edit poly modifier, go to vertex mode, and some of the things that we can do is we can pull this shape a bit more, yeah, like that. We could also select all these edges over here and do a little bit of widening, yeah, generally it's a bit wider there. Some other things that we can do would be selecting this edge, for example, and this edge, and again we could potentially widen the shape a little bit. Now it doesn't really work the way I want it, unfortunately, but we can still use edge mode. We can use vertex mode, and that should allow it. Yeah, something like that. Now looking at the shape over here, now we've made our model only till here, so we have not included this metal piece from over here yet. Okay, let's just go to our Open Subdiv again, and let's have a look at the shape, which looks a lot better. Now we'll go into edit poly, and I also want to drag these higher. I want to add this a bit higher as well. So basically it creates that sort of shape that we're looking for. Let's just press L on the keyboard. No, sorry, let's press F on the keyboard to go sideways like that. Unfortunately, that's what happens. Or we don't position our model properly, but we could reposition it if we want. So we'll do that, and maybe we'll drop these a little bit. Again, we're just using a reference as a reference. We're not using it to do this knife perfectly, as in the reference, and that's our shape basically. Now, if you want to thicken it some more, that's your call. For example, I do believe that I must have, I think I've basically made it too, I need to make it a bit more wide. Yeah, like that. Let's just press P on the keyboard for perspective mode. So that's our, you know what, let's just change this color as well. So I'm basically gonna make it black. And the reason why I made it black is because I'm probably going to press M on the keyboard. Oh, sorry about that. And then I will select one of the materials and assign to it. And now when I press F4, not it always up. Basically, I'm going to have a black wireframe. Right. Okay. So this is our result. Do we want to continue on with this model here? I would say the base, which is basically down here, probably from this end, is a bit wider. Now I'm not a knife expert or anything like that, I just think it's going to look a bit better doing that. So let's have a look. Yeah, I think it helps the shape a little bit more. Now some of the things that you may also see is if we select, if we go to edge mode and we select this edge, but we then deselect everything over there, we just keep the bottom one selected. What I want to do is I want to pull it out a little bit, like that, like so, yeah. And now we go to Open Subdiv, and we can see that we've created this a little bit of, you can see that line running across there. And we can even be a bit, you know, we can do a bit more on that and actually, you know, create another crease. So we'll deselect everything that's not in there. Damn, okay, I'm just gonna do that. Okay. So I'm just going to create another crease. It doesn't matter how many creases you create, as long as you know, this model is not big enough for us to have problems with having too many creases, so you shouldn't worry about it. It's definitely too intense, so I will just take the, you know, we can take this attention a bit away, but enough for us to see it. Yeah. So again, you may add some tension over here as well if you want to. It's really depending on how you think the form will look, if it will look better. So we can go back to edit poly, deactivate show end result, and then go to edge mode, select these, pull them out a little bit, like so. Maybe bring them further down, like that. Deselect that one, bring it out a little bit, like that. And then go back into crease set, select these edges as well, and update set from selection. Okay, something like that. So what I would also like to do is go to crease set, select elements from the first set, and maybe go even lower. So see how that changes. Fine tune it until you're happy with it, basically. I'm just going to 5 iterations. I just want to see how that looks like. It's very smooth, isn't it? So yeah, I think that will work well. Okay, now is our handle too big, too long? Which I think it is for a hunting knife, or what, you know, what we're trying to make. So activate end result. Basically, you don't have to have anything selected, but we can do that. So this will make it smaller, yeah. So we do that, and now let's go. Yeah, that looks okay. And now we just want to add this part over here, this metal piece over here, right? So now let's start with the piece. We're back into edit poly, go to polygon mode, make sure you select these faces over here, and now we'll use the good old extrude, and we'll do something like that. You know what, let's actually input the number. We'll put number 3, press OK, and that's basically what we get. Now what we want to do is we want to select these sizes over these polygons over here, and actually what I want to do is I want to select the edge underneath and move it a little bit into shape like that. Yeah, and now select both of these polygons and the same thing, extrude. We'll not just do it by 3 this time though, we'll do it by, oh sorry, I think I deselected one of the components. Yes, I did. Right, press extrude, and we'll go to, I don't know, let's try 6. No, definitely not. Let's try 12. Based on the reference, that should be pretty much okay. Now we'll press OK on the extrude. I'm also going to scale this in so it becomes, well, actually no, we'll leave it like that. We need a small curve. What I'm going to do, on the other hand, is I'm going to do that, you know, make it a bit more, get both of these faces sort of approaching each other a bit, creating a shape, and we do want to add some swift loops into the whole equation. So we need one about here and one in the middle. And the reason for that is we will select these vertices here. By the way, use scale, well, actually select the whole edge, and with scale activated, just do that on the z-axis to straighten it, as you don't need these to be being zigzag. So okay, now we'll select these vertices over here, and actually no, we'll not select those vertices. What we'll do is we will select these and move them a little bit like that, and then we'll select these over here and we'll push them in. And now I want to go to Open Subdiv and have a look. This is basically our shape, not the cleanest. So one thing that happens generally when you use Creaset and Open Subdiv is that if you add more geometry, you're going to start to break what you've done. This is why when you use Creaset, it's a good idea to basically commit to that before you make any more changes. So we have an edge set that we could probably rename to overall shape. So we know that's the overall shape, it's the edges, the outer edges. And then select elements set, and these are these edges, which again we could say sharp. Oh, sorry, I've just opened the. So we'll rename this to sharp edges. This is just for our reference, basically. It helps to. Right, this was our point to basically make this a lot sharper. Make this sharp. But now we obviously don't need it anymore. So I'm going to deselect the whole thing, and I'm actually going to select this one, yeah, because we're adding a new variation. Now, as you can see in the reference, this side holds its shape a bit better than the other side being more curved. So we'll add that bit to the overall shape. Over here we have a curve, so we don't need to do it. So we will update set from selection. And let's go to Open Subdiv again. And this is basically what we get, which is not bad. We just need one at the top as well. So we'll do that and update set. We'll call this, I don't know, handle head, something like that. Although I think the head is over there, whatever. Anyway, not a knife expert. Select elements and set, and this is our edges underneath, which is fine. Right, okay, so some of the things that we need to do. Well, we need to make this shape hold up a bit better. So what I'm going to do is I want to select this edge, these edges around here, basically. The advantage of using Creasets and Open Subdiv is that you don't have to mess around with all the new loops that you need to add when you're using TurboSmooth. I found Open Subdiv to give so much more control. This workflow is just a dream to work with. Honestly, I would recommend it to everybody. So we've added the Creaset, but we haven't added any sort of tension. So we'll add a bit of tension over there. See, it's having a transition, as you can see. Yeah, so you can see that transition. So the transition is quite nice, but it doesn't really have an overarching connection over here, and that is because our overall shape is not very it's not very sharp, right? So we can do that, we can sharpen that, and actually let me just select the elements and then deactivate that. So it connects like that, it connects to this one, but it's almost as if they're disjointed anyway. You see that? The disjointment is caused by this edge here not having any sort of sharpness. So we can select this shape over here, deactivate the end scenario, and let's just add let's add that one to the whole mix as well. And now let's go to Open Subdiv and let's have a look. So see, now it is holding a bit better, basically. Some of the things that this crease set is not including is the select elements from set. What happened? Oh, right, that's not the one. Sorry about that. So we've got the overall shape that we need to select, and you see these edges here are not in the overall shape. So we're just going to add them now. Okay. So yeah, I've made the overall shape very sharp. I believe the sharpness underneath helps, but the sharpness on top doesn't. So we do have an overall shape, like we keep referring to it. I believe we need to take these edges out of it, and we update again. Go to Open Subdiv, and this is what we get. And I think this is basically a way better result. Yeah. Okay. So now we've done that bit as well. You can again tweak these, play with them some more if you want to. For example, you could have a bigger curve over here, or maybe the curve just ends too abruptly for you. So you might go into Edit Poly and say, you know what, I don't like this. I'm just going to add another Swift loop over here, which is fine. Then select these edges and just lift it up. And then you go back to Open Subdiv, and this is what you get. But because you've added that element there, now again, bear that in mind. It's not complicated, but it is something definitely to keep in mind. You alter the shape. Creaset doesn't really know what you've done. The algorithm is trying its best to work it out, but it will not always. Well, most of the time it won't recognize it properly. We do have this pinching over here, which I'm just not really fond of. It's because the overall shape is at 1, but this one is not. So, you know what, let's just turn this one to 1. Let's have a look. Yeah, you know what, we're actually going to do this. We're just going to maintain it like that. I'm just going to go into Edit Poly, and I'm going to select these polygons and just pull them in a little bit as well. And I'm just going to select these polygons and just pull them a bit more. And now, yeah, I like it. Okay, now we're just going to go on to the blade. So there are a few ways that we could go about making this blade. Basically, we can do it using a box again. Not a large box like this. Unfortunately, that's not what I wanted to do. But something more like that. Yep. And now this box, I want to align it to this handle. And we'll press OK. And then let's just move it into position. Something like that should be fine. Let's just make it very, very, thin. I think that's going to be the thickness at the top, and we'll play with the thickness at the bottom in a bit. Right. So let's just put it into position even more, something like that. Okay. So if I press F on the keyboard, I know it's front, but basically, we could take all of these, press A on the keyboard and rotate them to 90 degrees. And now if I press L on the keyboard, that's left. And then I can press F4 and G to take the grid off, and basically now we have them at 90 degrees. Takes it that way. Okay, right. So we want our handle. We can see the shape of it. So we need to add some few loops to create this curve, and some loops to basically create these shapes here. Now those shapes we can actually have the geometric shape, or we could use it just as a normal map to have that sort of effect, effect there. It's really up to us what we want to do. Okay, so let me just have a look. We could play with the segments. If we press F4, we can see the segments over here. So we could play with that. We can keep these segments basically if we want to, or we could change them to new ones. What I'm thinking is let's just use the ones that we, let's just use these for now. So some of the things that we want to do. Let's add an edit poly on top. We'll go to edge mode, and just like in the reference, let's just drag this on a little bit here, because as you can see in the reference, we have this curve. So we want to basically toy with that a little bit. So first thing, edge mode, we want to have these selected. We go like that, go to polygon mode and basically do that. Obviously we're going to have to add a swift loop over here, so in order for us to be able to pull this up, and this is going to give us that curve basically. This vertex is definitely lower than that vertex. Okay, now so the other things that we want to do is we want to drag these over like that, and then we want to drag these over like that, and then we want to drag these over like that. So you can see the shape has to, the way the edges, the way the edge flow is, it has to follow a certain pattern. You can't just move some vertices around and expect no repercussions further down the line if you don't do your edge flow properly. So we'll just move these across. We want to bring this over like that, and we want to go even further, right? Which I'm just doing this step by step, and I'm not rushing it or anything, because I want you guys to understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. This is not a complicated model to do, but it's very important that you understand why some of these things are being done this way, right? So this is what we have, right? It's all about playing with this shape and making sure that you know where the weight of your whole handle is going to come from. So the belt, the belly, let's call it, of the blade here, it's flat, and basically at some point it starts to go up. So you do want to sort of create that in as little polygons as possible, right? I think we'll have to lengthen this a little bit, something like that. The blade is as big as the handle from what I can see. So we'll do that, and this is a bit lower, just a slightly a bit lower in the reference. And yeah, let's just play a little bit now with the Open Subdiv. Obviously, we don't have something to hold the shape, so we will have to play with some creases. But before we do that, let's just select all of these edges over here, like that, and let's get them closer to each other. So let's just get close ourselves to have a look how close we're actually putting these together, something like that. And then we'll deselect the bottom ones, but we'll thicken these a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Some other things to note is that this bottom part, this part here, is not, sorry, I'll just select them like that. It's not thin. It's definitely quite as thick as the top, basically. Something like that. Okay, go back into Open Subdiv. Nothing much has really changed because we still have a problem with the shape overall. One of the things that we can do in terms of crease setting is we can do the tip. So go into edge mode and select that tip, and then we can also select this entirety of these edges here. We'll create our set and we'll increase to the maximum amount. And this is basically what we get, right? Now this end here is the same thing. There's no denying that these are very, very thick edges, yeah? So we selected them, we'll add them to our set, and let's have a look. Now the reason why that's happening over here on the corner is because in the crease set we haven't really selected the corner itself, so the corner is still falling. Sorry, let me just select. Yeah, well actually I'm just going to isolate the selection, Alt Q to isolate selection. Okay, so now I've selected those. Update the set from selection and go to Open Subdiv, and yeah, we have a better shape holding. I think the real trick into making this work is you go to Edit Poly, you activate this option so you can see the end result. Yep. And then you go to Edge mode, and you go to Vertex mode. This is the point where you can play with the weight a little bit of the blade, of how the blade dynamically changes. I think this is where all the magic happens, basically. So you've got this curve here, for example. Maybe we need the curve to be a bit higher. By the way, the Open Subdiv has only one iteration, so I would suggest going to at least 3, but we'll go to 4. Go back into Edit Poly, and you can start playing with these shapes a little bit more. Right over here, same thing. Just raise that a little bit. It's not as down as you might think. By the way, I want to change the wireframe to black. Material, assign. Yeah. Okay. So let's just end isolation. Oh, I just want to select this one and just say isolate display so we can see it a lot better. Let's just go in left view and let's just position this. As you can see, the blade is definitely too big, so I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. Our center point is over here, our pivot point is over there, so that means that whatever we do, it's going to revolve around that point. Now these two shapes should be aligned properly with each other, as in the middle. And as you can see, they are indeed aligned. Yeah, we can pull this in a little bit more, maybe not so much, like that. And basically this is our knife. Now I still believe that the reference is looking more authentic, and that is because in the in the Edit Poly here, this is where the magic sort of happens. We've got to make sure that we make the blade a little bit smaller. We'll just pull this a little bit more. See how I'm changing that shape over there? You could even do something like this if you want to. But if we deactivate these points, we'll be able to play with it a little bit more. So let's just do that. Like that. This got a problem, clearly. And this has a problem, clearly. And this has a problem, clearly. They are not sharp enough. Now we don't want to have an unsharpened knife when we go hunting, now do we? So I'm just going to deselect that one. And I'm just going to make it sharper. Now some of the things that we don't need in this model is we don't necessarily need the center line. And we could potentially just get rid of it, really. Let's just go back to our blade. It's looking nice. Yeah. Okay. Now, again, I am not an expert in knives, and I do believe it's all about personal preference here. You can definitely work the shape a little bit better and get a better result if you want to. So maybe something like that. Generally, I do well when I do something like a fantasy knife or something like that. And this is more like the real life sort of thing. So yeah, I think that has a good balance to it, doesn't it? Maybe it's a bit too sharp over here, but again, you can toy with the crease sets if you want it a bit smoother. Right, and now we just have this small little, this detail over here that we may want to work on, and this one over here. Yeah, I believe this one we can leave as a detail in the normal map, really, rather than doing doing geometry for the low poly. But this one we can definitely do it for the low poly. And in order to do that, we just need to go into Edit Poly, so we can see this shape. And I believe we need a swift loop right over here. Yep. And then we'll go to polygon mode. We'll select these two. Now looking at that reference, I'm trying to work out how best to do this. Actually, I don't need to extrude that one at all. Right. So I do believe we could extrude over here. Let's just try with extrusion. So I want to extrude over here. Let's just press OK, and then being in this view, let's just center this a little bit. Go to the right view. Oh, I just moved it a little bit. Right, and now let's just center it. Now, there's two ways that we can do. There's two things we can do here. We can either have quads, or we can have triangles. I'm just gonna go with. I prefer to go with triangles in this situation. So I'm just going to pull this out a little bit like that. I'm gonna go to vertex mode and start target welding this. I'm just going to isolate the model as well. So I'm just target welding these points over here. Oh, well, if only that would work. So target, right. So now we've created this shape basically on this side. Now, as you can imagine, our crease head has now had to suffer because we've made these modifications. We only extruded on this side and on the other side as well. So we're going to have a bit of a problem. So what I want to do is I want us to add, well, I want us with the poly modifier like that. Let's just save first. And then with the head poly selected, we'll go to polygon mode, select biangle, select this side and press delete. So I've just taken the whole side off. We'll go to edge mode, double click this edge and press delete again. So now we've basically deleted this side of the mesh. And what I want to do now is I want to add a symmetry modifier. We'll go to the y-axis and press flip. And this is basically what we get. Now we'll add another edit poly on top of the symmetry. Let's just go to element mode and select it, and now I want to move it. Okay, so everything is connected. That's good. Now into polygon mode, as you can see, we've got a few. So we've got here these two vertices haven't connected. We'll just select them both, and we'll do a weld. Just increase that until it connects. I'm not really worried about this side of things here because this is inside the handle, so it's not something that you will be able to see anyway. This, on the other hand, I'm not particularly fond about these edges just being dragged like that. So I am going to have to lift them up a little bit. Yeah, should be fine. Now we'll close edit poly and we'll go to crease set. I want us to basically, not have any creases anymore because we're going to have to make them again. So we'll double click this. We could have added the crease set before the symmetry and do it, so then we can have a duplicated crease set on both sides, but it's fine. We can do it this way as well. So we'll select these edges. Let's just select the other edge on the other side. Let's select that edge as well. And this edge. Now again, you're gonna have to sort of eyeball these edges that you need to do. Unfortunately, because we're working with such a thin model, it's quite difficult to zoom in on it. So that can be a bit of a pain. Again, double click. Wherever the sort of edge flow ends, you will have to, like here, for example, the edge flow ends, so you're going to have to select the edges again. It's not that the geometry doesn't flow correctly, it's because the algorithm doesn't detect this as being an end of the edge flow. So we've got all these selected now. Let's create a set and increase the tension, and let's see what we've got basically. So we don't have that corner selected, and we don't have this corner selected, and that's having an effect on the shape. This here is maintained, but we definitely need a bigger protrusion on that. So we'll go back to crease set. Let's select our edge. Let's go into edge mode, and first of all, let's just put the sharp edges. So it's going to be a pain to select. Come on. Well, actually, no, I'm just going to do that. It's fine. Should be okay. Okay, let's update the set now and go back into Open Subdiv, and now we've got the shape back that we had before. On the Open Subdiv, let's just make sure we're on the highest, quality. And we want to go back into the edit poly and want to go to edge mode. We've got these edges selected, so we could potentially just do that basically to widen it. And now when we go into Open Subdiv, you'll see a bigger, but we do need this to be higher. So we're going to go to edit poly again, and this time I want to select these edges and this one, and we just want to go higher. Yeah, and let's see how that looks like now, which is a bit better. Crease set. Yeah, we potentially can go. It can go even higher if we want to. Maybe something like that. And then we can also go a bit thicker here. Something like that. We'll just select this side and got an edge over here. Got a rogue edge. Control double backspace in order to take that off. So we'll just increase that, and we'll go back to Open Subdiv, and oh god. So basically what's happened is our crease gets destroyed because of that one edge over there. You see that one right there? Great. Let me just try something. So I'm just gonna do that and backspace it, and hopefully, yeah, we've basically saved the day by doing that, because I've added edit poly on top of the crease set. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Again, you can go even higher. Let's just close the isolation. Let's have a look at the knife again. Let's go back into edit poly and activate this. Let's just make this knife a little bit smaller. One other thing that we can do is we can lift the knife a bit higher. This whole thing here seems like it requires a bit more work. So we could, sorry about that. Let's just select the knife, edit poly, edge, vertex mode. Let's just lift this now. We need to lift it from this side like that. And then just probably bring it a bit forth. Not too much, because we've got some bit of problems over there. Right, something like that. I think it's a bit on the beefy side over on this area. So yeah, definitely on the beefy side. So we'll just decrease that a little bit. Yeah, like that. Okay. So I think that's basically it for the knife. We will now want to basically do the UV unwrapping on it, so we can texture it. Well, we can do the UV unwrapping on the low poly. We take the high poly into Zbrush to add a lot of details. So yeah, the next video is going to be about putting into Zbrush and adding the details on it, and then we'll do the unwrap on the low poly. And then we'll do a video on basically creating a sheath for the knife. And then the same thing, you know, put it into Zbrush, unwrap it, and then we'll take them both into Substance Painter. So thank you guys for watching the video. If you found it useful, if you learned something, please let me know. And if you have any suggestions, again, please let me know. This knife has been done as a request by somebody who wanted to see a way of how to make this in 3ds Max and then into Zbrush. I hope the Open Subdiv workflow is going to be very helpful to you, as I find it very useful. And not to mention that basically with the Open Subdiv flow, I could, for example, decrease my iterations on the model to something like that, and with a bit of cleanup I already have my low poly ready for the high poly mesh that I'm going to make in ZBrush. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching and have a good one. Don't forget to subscribe, press that to the bell down there so you can see a notification whenever I post something new. Please like the video, and yeah, have a good one.